It is Sunday, February 22nd, and it's getting pretty late with Jake Landau. Folks, if like me, you woke up early for the puck drop for the 8 p.m. Eastern Time or 5 p.m. Pacific Time, like our guest at the Olympics for the men's hockey final, you're pretty fucking disappointed. I was also disappointed the other day, 2 days ago, or 3 days ago, I forget which one, when got up for the women's puck drop final. And that was also disappointing. I did not want America to go 2 for 2. Unfortunately, those fucking Yankees have, and now the White House has tweeted that tweet from a year ago of Justin Trudeau when he said, you can't take our country and you can't take our game. They just quote tweeted today with like an eagle killing a goose, a Canada goose. And I'm like, I want to know what social media staffer with no life has had that one in the pocket for quite literally an exact year. It was from February of last year. They've been waiting on this one a full fucking year.
There's
Anyways, let me get to actually introducing our guest, though, folks. You might want to know that because he's trying to talk now. We've had him on before. He's a political commentator, a left-wing activist, ostensible supporter of the Green Party at most levels, I think. His name is Matt Kercher, and it's a pleasure to have him back on the show. Matt, how fucking disappointed were you with our hockey today?
um that was not worth a 5 a.m. wake up. I mean,
Yeah,
I shouldn't say that.
yeah. Like
I
I
shouldn't
got
say
up
that
at
because it
8,
was a great
okay.
game.
But for 5, you're on the Pacific, 5 for you.
Yeah,
Oh god.
it was a great game. Like, let's not kid ourselves. It was a really good hockey game. It was a really enjoyable game to watch. Cale Makar is still a beast, and will remain a beast
It was
in Canadian
close, but
hockey
it was
going
low
forward.
scoring. Like for how many shots on goal both teams took, like it's kind of shocking it ended 2-1 in overtime. I was pretty disappointed that like we had a 5-on-3 power play for a good chunk of time over a minute, could not capitalize on it to save our lives. Like, and I'm sorry, but that is embarrassing. Like, you
Yeah,
cannot, when the Yankees can take 5 Canadians with only 3 of them and go out like shutout, like, no. Like, I'm glad we got a goal and took it to overtime, but like there were so many opportunities to end it before that. Like there were opportunities in overtime. I was disappointed there, but I was disappointed in the women's final too. I'll be honest, Matt. I am looking very forward to the Paralympics in general because, for one, I'm just a huge fan of the Paralympics. I like them more than the Olympics, just because I just find them cooler. Like, to be fair, I grew up. My uncle has cerebral palsy, and he's in a wheelchair, and like he played bocce a lot. So like I find it cool. Like I think para athletics are a cool thing, and I love the Paralympics. I think it's just really fun. So like I'm looking forward to Paralympic hockey. Like
yeah.
both men's and women's, we need them to redeem our country from the Olympic bullshit we've just witnessed. But also in
Sledge
all sports, like I just love the Paralympics in general. It's such it's a fun and upbeat time, and we
there's
need
definitely a
that.
lot of there's definitely a bit of a vibe shift when it comes to the Paralympics. There's a lot of perseverance and a lot of uplifting moments in the Paralympics, it feels like. And sledge hockey is always actually really entertaining to watch as well. I'm assuming there's probably isn't a whole lot of Canadians who actually have watched sledge hockey. You should. It's quite good.
From the 2010 team in Vancouver, our goalie, I actually have a signed pack of gum that had him featured on it because
Yeah.
he came to our school to give a talk, and then at one point he asked a question to the crowd, and I raised my hand and gave the right answer. So he called me up, and then he gave me this thing, and someone is like, "Oh, Jake, you could get a lot of money for that." I'm like, "Fuck that! I'm gonna keep this shit."
Yeah.
Like this is cool, and
Yeah.
I still do. It's literally I can see it right over from my desk, where I am now, where we're recording. And like I'm happy I still have that, like, because that's 16, 7, or maybe 15 years old at this point, and I would have been in middle school, but like I just really love you're right. There is a vibe shift
Yeah.
because like everyone's just having a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I'm sure everyone's had well, everyone except for maybe Jacobs at the Olympics is having a pretty good time, but
yeah, he just won a gold medal.
he just won a gold medal, right?
I
Yeah.
think he's
So
having a wonderful time. Like he told Sweden to fuck off, and they were forced to fuck off.
yeah, they got away with it.
It was before the hog line.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I think that was a legal play, personally. Just someone who's grown up playing curling. It was before the hog line.
yeah.
You're allowed to touch it before the hog line. But
That's
hey,
what she said.
yeah,
I'm
it's over
sorry.
and
I
done with.
know.
We can't do
I'm
with
trying
curling.
not to
So,
be 6 years old, but like I already made the joke on Twitter. Men are very sensitive about our hog lines.
I was talking. Who was I talking? I can't remember who I was talking to. I was talking to someone on Twitter, and they were saying about how hockey is an incredibly homoerotic sport.
Oh yeah.
And
Same with football. Like I
I
find
kind of went. Isn't that every team sport? Isn't every team sport slightly homoerotic?
I mean, with baseball, there's a lot of ass slapping.
Yeah.
Like you watch the Blue Jays and like they're slapping each other's asses a lot. And
Yep.
I'm sure they don't think it's gay, but as a bi guy, I can confirm it's like a little bit. And there's not anything wrong with that. Again, I'm bi,
Oh.
so I wouldn't find anything wrong with it. But I'm like, I find football is really gay though because of the grappling.
Yep.
Yeah. Again, not that there's anything wrong with that. But I'm
No.
like, when I point this out to people in the South of the United States, they get rather mad at me.
Well, it's kind of funny, right? Because it's like there is this like right wing culture around sports, and there's also this right wing culture against like around bigotry and being like anti LGBTQ plus and stuff like that as well. And yet there is all this homoerotic imagery in the things that these people hold dearly,
I will
and they're
say that
okay with it.
the Blue Jays are a delightful respite from that. Like, no one on the Blue Jays really. Like, the one time people can remember someone on the Blue Jays being homophobic, it was a giant scandal, and then they got, like, dropped from the team. And then a player volunteered Kevin Gossman volunteered to go throw out first pitch just because he really wants to be supportive. Like it was the fact that no one in the room agreed with him, or if they did feel that way in a bigoted way, they're not stupid enough to say it out loud. Like
Yeah.
Pride Night is a good night for the Blue Jays, like, and they don't expect you to just be gay that one night. like it. So no, and again, I know they're a corporation and they like money, but you know what? I do appreciate rainbow capitalism to an extent as a bellwether. Like it tells us when we as the queer community have a certain amount of majority support, that the capitalists think it's in their profit motive to try and get our money
Mm-hmm.
and the money of people who support us.
Yeah.
Like it's better for that to be the mood of capitalists than to not be. And I say that as a socialist who wants to outmode them.
Yeah. Must be nice to have a sports team like that in your back door, because meanwhile I've got the Vancouver Canucks who went and got Evander Kane in the offseason, and he's hanging out with
I can't help you there, buddy. Well, you do have the Vancouver Canadians. You do
That's
have
true.
you have the Blue Jays High A minor league affiliate, and that is
We got the Whitecaps FC too.
yeah. And like the great thing about minor league baseball is it's super cheap.
Mhm.
Like tickets are like
Oh,
what?
Canadians baseball is great. If
Yeah.
anyone's listening to this and they're from the Vancouver area and they want like a good experience, go watch a Canadians baseball.
I didn't get
It's a
to
lot of
go
fun.
the last time I was in Vancouver, and the first time because I was in December after the season was done. But hopefully this year I can get out to Vancouver and I can watch I want initially before we had diplomatic difficulties with the United States on virtue of them becoming an authoritarian regime. I had wanted to do a trip where I go to Vancouver to watch the Blue Jays baseball. I mean the minor league baseball with the Canadians, and then I wanted to take the Cascades train south to Seattle so I could then watch a Blue Jays game against Seattle in Seattle.
Yeah.
Because, and then I could fly back from Seattle on like an open jaw trip. So,
Yep.
unfortunately, I can't do that now because with what I've published, I would be arrested the moment I try to cross the border. It turns out
Yeah.
that saying we should freeze and starve the treacherous Yankee uh, they're like well back in the day, Matt, like a year ago or so when they were saying 51st state, I'm like, we should cut off all electricity from
Yeah.
Ontario and we should cut off all potash shipments and then they won't have any crop fertilizer and tens of millions of people will freeze in the dark. And
They
I
need to understand that they need us at some point.
yeah, no, yeah, and like the point wasn't actually that I want to, do these things. The point is to show the Yankees, the USians, that we can, that we are
Yeah.
not helpless, and that we do not exist at their mercy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I've been the same way. I've called to shut you've seen me on Twitter calling to shut off the oil, shut off the potash, um recall diplomats from the United States. Like we can't it frustrates me because to no end because there's like this section of people in this country who do agree that we need to kind of move away from the US and everything like that. Um, but at the same time, they want to double down on, say, military spending that's going to go directly through the US. Um,
I like that you say military spending through the US
yeah.
because I think we need some form of military spending like in order to secure our continued existence as a state and not the 51st state. Uh
Yeah.
the form of that can be debated, but obviously if we want to build a military deterrent to the United States, we should not buy that from the United States.
No.
And I don't like that we're selling them a lot of weapons as well, like especially to ICE, who's using them against the U.S.'s own people. Uh,
Hmm.
like, and a point has been made to me by a previous guest who's a defense analyst that a lot of these Canadian military manufacturers, they do mostly sell to customers in the United States because those are the people with contracts and that Canada doesn't really buy a lot from them. So I do get the understanding that they need alternative customers as
Hmm.
companies to exist. Nonetheless, I do also think Canada needs to set moral limits on who we export arms and military equipment to.
Yeah. The Saudi deal when Trudeau came in is a great example of that, right? That's a deal that we didn't go with the US, but it's still at the behest of the US. We're still signing with a nation that's got a terrible human rights record. And we know that the weapons that we were sending them in that deal, or not the weapons, but the vehicles we were sending them in that deal, were going to be used in human rights violations. And it's the same principle now in the United States. We already know that Canadian equipment has been used, like you said, with ICE. Um, and I believe there's actually been Canadian equipment in Minnesota where ICE is occupying right now. Um, if we want to be able to have a moral standing on this, if we want to act like, no, we are in opposition to the United States, we cannot help with the rise of fascism within their own country. We cannot be um, America's America's manufacturing hub for their military industry any longer.
I know, and it like again, like I'm willing to consider what forms of military deterrent would be viable for Canada, including nuclear weapons. And I've made it a bit of a meme on Twitter, and it's very funny how I don't know if it was my doing, but suddenly Canadian mainstream media just started talking about the idea of like this. It's like who is that former retired general who is like, we shouldn't discount it. And then suddenly on my CBC podcasts, they're like, should Canada have nuclear weapons? And then, in my narcissistic mind, I'm like, did I tweet this into existence?
I don't like. I agree. I think that's probably the only real deterrent we could have against the U.S. military. Like we'd be looking at to be on par with the U.S. military. We'd be looking at spending 30% of our GDP over the next 10 years.
Yeah,
To be on par with them.
fiscally, I don't, and even practically, I don't see a way we could build a conventional deterrent.
No.
So we need some form of weapon of mass destruction. And boy, do we have a lot of uranium.
Which who do we currently give it to?
Yeah. Maybe we should keep that.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we should stop funding the U.S. nuclear program and fund our own.
Yeah. I can definitely agree with that one. But you may be very unique among Greens in supporting nuclear weapons, not alone, let alone nuclear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But but speaking more generally about the Greens and for you, the Greens in BC, not that I don't think you're particularly involved with the party, but you are a Green.
I
And
am. Yeah.
yeah, and BC Greens, I'm thinking, are who you support in provincial politics, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a provincial party member actually.
Oh,
I
fun.
signed up.
Okay.
I
I
signed up
wasn't
to the
sure
party
on
to
that,
join for
but
everyone.
it helps to know that you're officially a member of that party.
Yeah.
Okay, so I what I'm reading is that while the BC Greens and the BC NDP signed a temporary governing accord in December 2024, they will not be renewing it as of this month. And I was just wondering first, why was that accord signed in the first place?
Okay. So the reason the accord was signed in the first place goes back to the election. The NDP won the slimmest of slim majorities. They have a single seat majority in the legislature, and they also had to put up a speaker. So they would have been in the position where anytime they wanted to pass a piece of legislation, they would need to have a full contingent in the House every single time, every
So they
single
made a
confidence
deal
motion.
very much like the 2017 one.
Yeah, very much like the 2017 one. The only difference is back in 2017, the NDP didn't have enough for a majority. In this deal, they did have a majority. They just wanted that extra stability in the House.
Because they only have enough, if that they would have to put up a speaker, and
Yep.
then if they put up a speaker, the speaker they would maintain confidence.
Yeah.
So they could reallocate. But they couldn't actually do much more than that. I don't even know if they could reallocate committees.
They could have the speaker break ties.
Yeah.
That would be rather unconventional. And
I thought that
so
a speaker can only break ties to preserve the status quo.
they can have them break ties in confidence motions. I would have to look more into it if he could
Yeah,
break ties on
my
actual
understanding
legislation.
is that, like, specifically, they will preserve confidence, but
Mhm.
otherwise they will vote to continue debate.
Yeah.
And
There,
this creates a problem for the government in passing legislation.
yeah.
Like, they technically have a majority and can ride out 4 years. But I don't even know, like, if they would necessarily be able to, like, allocate committee appointments to members of the House
Yeah.
or
They're able
legislature in this
to
case.
they are able to like do supply agreement like confidence and supply. So like for
As we
example,
have here.
yeah, so for example, the speaker will break the tie on this budget and this budget will pass with the speaker's approval. Um on other legislation, I'm not 100% sure. I would have to do some more digging into that. But basically, they're in the very similar situation to what like, Carney's in right now, where they were just looking for that extra stability to get them over that line, so that if they had an MLA sick or they had someone not there or they had a tricky piece of legislation, they just had that little bit of
And I
backup to
did
get there.
actually write about that in my most recent piece about how, like, if Carney does build a majority through floor crossing, it'll be based on quicksand. But we'll leave that for our second half, where floor crossing in general is a headline topic. In terms of the BC Greens, so they signed an agreement, and was it intended to only last a year?
No, so this was intended to last the government. The problem is the BC NDP doesn't like to do what it's promised. This has been a historic issue for the BC NDP, at least in this recent government cycle. There was a lack of movement on a number of key sectors that the BC Greens wanted to see movement on, and the NDP just straight up refused. And the BC Greens, I also think, had an idea of what this budget was going to look like, what it was coming up, and they just decided that it wasn't worth it to be attached to this budget to get nothing in return from the BC NDP in their priorities.
Oh yeah, and that's valid. I don't know that confidence and supply agreements have been very beneficial to any minority partner that joins them. Like they're treated essentially as part of the government and punished as such by voters who don't like the government. But people who do like the government just vote for the main governing partner. Like I
Yeah,
feel like a coalition can really only work when it is a coalition, when
yeah.
there are
Well, and
ministers who are
it
shared.
does feel I feel very much the same. I feel like that the BC Greens learned from using the federal entities with the CAPTA agreements here, that you have to pull the plug. Things aren't getting done. And that's what they've done here. And they've set themselves up in a very good position, I think, to be a strong left wing critique of a governing centrist BC NDP party. They are giving people another option in this province, something that a lot of people haven't seen a lot of before, or even thought what the NDP would be at their best. They can now see in the BC Greens.
Hmm. Do you think that it's part of why the BC NDP have broken the deal or pushed them to breaking the deal by not following what was promised in the deal? Is that they're more confident in their place in the legislature now that the BC Conservatives are fracturing?
I think that's probably part of it. I also think that the BC NDP just has this hubris that goes along with it, that they now see themselves as the natural governing party of this province and therefore can kind of get away with more than they would have been able to get away with in the past. Like, I think they honestly view themselves in comparison to the federal Liberal Party, and they see that the federal Liberal Party will kind of bend its rules and bend its ideology to maintain power, and they're trying to replicate that, except they're not good at it.
Yeah,
They're very
they're not
bad at playing
nearly as
politics.
consistent as the federal Liberal Party is to be.
No,
Don't get me wrong, it's hubris as well when the federal Liberals say it, but it's a sort of earned hubris in that they do tend to get elected a lot.
yeah. Whereas, and in the BC NDP, don't get me wrong, they do get elected. Um, but it's not like this has been a historic governing party or anything like that. This is meant to be a party for change, and they think now they have this opportunity with the Conservatives in BC being as crazy as they are to become the natural governing party in this province. And in doing so, they are completely abandoning everything they've ever stood for.
I mean, nonetheless, yeah, the BC NDP still technically have a majority, so they would decide whenever a next election happens. Uh,
Yeah,
Emily Lowan, the leader of the BC Greens, made that emphatically clear to the press, because she doesn't want to be blamed for not being cooperative, and I don't think
yeah,
and it's the same as when Trudeau called an election in 2021 uh, and got the exact same parliament he had before. People want to see parties work together in such a situation. They don't want to see the governing party call an election for their own benefit, unless you're Doug Ford in Ontario. Well, even with Doug Ford in Ontario, he still got the majority he had before, but he didn't get the bigger one he wanted. Meanwhile, I don't know
yes,
why he wanted a bigger one because the size was already absurd large enough that he could just fire MPs and banish them from caucus at will. like with Roman Baber, which was justified, and with Goldie Gamari, which was also justified. So, like, to be fair, the people he kicked out were genuinely crazy, so I appreciate that.
Yes,
But nonetheless, like
that's
it
probably how
isn't
Doug
like a
Ford maintains
super
it.
winning move with Canadian voters.
Yeah. No, and Trudeau was absolutely punished for it the last time he did it. I think if the BC NDP does try to do something like that, they will be punished for it in BC.
Is it
I think that's a
punishment if
very
you just
short
get
track.
about the same situation you had before?
Well, see, that's the thing is I don't know if we would actually get the same situation we had before. I
Mm.
do think the Greens would have an impact in a race like that. I like right now. The Greens just had a poll come out that shows them polling at 13%. And like,
Oh,
yes, I
yeah.
know 13%. It's nothing
No,
huge
no,
or anything like
that's
that. But
in
in
a
the last
multi-party
election,
environment like that. That's pretty good. Like,
yeah, and in the
depending on the
last election,
efficiency of the vote, then it may help
yeah,
them.
yeah. Well, and in the last election, they polled about 8%. So that's a 5% bump from the last
Yeah,
election. Now, that was
upward
a
is good.
very, 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 very tight election. There's a lot of seats where the NDP losing some votes to the Greens could flip that seat. I'm not certain that if an election were held in BC today or this year, that the BC NDP would win another majority.
Right, and
They have
Emily Lowan
really bad
doesn't
budget.
currently have a seat, but I know at some point she will pursue one, I presume. How do you expect that boosting green poll numbers?
I mean, anytime have you in the right. But I also don't feel like her out of the house right now is dragging them down by any means. I think she's doing a really good job of kind of cross meeting a lot of people who probably would not be involved in the green move. I don't know if you saw the video they posted a while ago, but she was meeting with the owner of Edison Motors, which is an electric car company here in BC. Um, Edison Motors was and their ownership team were some of the premier boosters of the Conservative Party in the last election in BC. Emily Lowan has gone out and met them, talked to them, completely flipped them, and now they're on the Green team.
Hmm.
So I think she's doing a lot of work around the province, reaching out to areas that Greens don't normally reach out to, and that is having an impact currently. And then once that work is done and she gets into the house, we'll already have a bit of a step up to build off of.
I know she's been previously described as eco-socialist, which appeals to me. But like, do you think
Yeah.
she's attempting to build a broader tent than that?
Um, I wouldn't say she's attempting to build a broader tent than eco-socialists. I would say that she's trying to turn more people who aren't eco-socialists into
Does
eco-socialists.
that include the
I would say that
formerly
she's
conservative supporting people at Edison Motors?
well, yeah. Like, I mean, if they're the reason they supported the conservatives was they felt that um, which I tend to agree with actually, that big businesses in the province were being favored over small businesses, particularly like a green startup like this. And so I think that Emily has been able to kind of assuage some of those concerns um, by providing an eco-socialist vision, a different vision for the province. Like a lot of people, when we talk about eco-socialism and eco-socialist policies, they're quite popular, right? A lot of people really like them. They just don't like the word socialism,
Yeah.
scary, Red Scare propaganda. They just don't like that. So if you don't actually talk about, like, if you don't say this is eco-socialism, you can turn a lot of people into eco-socialists without them even knowing it.
Right. And that's fair. But it is also just you do start to worry at an extent. Like I don't. I like when people like get businesses on board with green
Mm-hmm.
initiatives. Don't get me wrong. I just don't like when they get too chummy with business.
Yeah, well, and that's fair. And so we can talk about that as well then. On the flip side, when you're on that side of business, let's talk about the gym and how Green's Patterson has just he tracked ice in the United States. Um, so the Greens basically massive pressure feel for group where not there across the country not. But they wear those with ice in the U.S., where the ice was going to use for detention. The amount of pressure that Emily Lowan was able to generate in the gym to reevaluate this decision and pull out of this deal. So I do think that like her trying to bring forward is not, we're all still going through the big corporations who are really hurting us and who are doing some really immoral things. It's just recognizing we need to lend the tent, I think. It's not so much as, like, I wouldn't say it's broadening the tent ideologically, but it is bringing more people into that tent under your ideology.
Okay. Now, folks, don't go anywhere. We will be back soon after our break with our guest, Matt Kercher, and our 3 headline topics of the week. Today's episode of It's Getting Pretty Late with Jake Landau is brought to you by me. Folks, all of my work is available for free with no paywall at jakelandau.ca. But in order to keep writing and recording, I need money, because money is what makes this show go round. So, if you enjoy my content or find it informative, please consider a paid subscription at jakelandau.ca/subscribe. And please leave a 5-star rating on the show in your favorite podcast app, be it Apple, Spotify, or a secret third thing. Thank you, and enjoy the show. And we are back with our guest, Matt Kercher, and hopefully clearer audio than that last teeny bit at the end there. How you doing, Matt?
Hopefully better now. Hopefully everyone can hear me better.
Sparkling clear. And we've got our 3 headline topics of the week for you. Our first headline topic is from the Toronto Star, written by Riza Patel from the Ottawa Bureau, Alex Ballingall, the Deputy Ottawa Bureau Chief, and Tonda McCharles, the Ottawa Bureau Chief. Big family event there. And the story is, the details behind Matt Generou's defection reveal contradictions. Here's what we know. New details on the backroom machinations behind the move reveal contradictions in what has been publicly revealed. For folks who are unaware, Matt Generou is the 3rd Conservative to cross the floor to the Liberal Party of Canada in the House of Commons. There has been a bit of up and down drama. The Liberals started this parliament at 169 out of 343 seats. They are now at 169 out of 343 seats after getting 2 floor crossers and then 2 resignations and then 1 election voided by the Supreme Court, which is a story in itself. And now finally a 3rd floor crosser to bring them exactly where they have started. Matt, do you think even if Mark Carney builds a majority through these 3 by-elections, that it will have any stability, or that it will merely be based on quicksand and slip out from under him?
Yeah, it's going to be similar to like what we were talking about, the situation in BC, right? Where yes, he'll have the majority, and yes, he'll have the prerogative, the legislative prerogative. But the question of always getting 171 people to show up for every single vote, that's the trick, right? That's the issue.
Like, you just need one person to be sick.
Well, not only that, you need one person to go, I don't really like this bill.
Yeah, too. There's so much, and the Liberal MPs, while they were too cowardly to vote yes on adopting the Reform Act this Parliament, they at least moved in gaining enough self-respect to push out Trudeau in the first place.
Yeah, and the Liberal Party kind of has this, because it is this big tent amorphous party, does kind of have those people on the left wings of it or the right wings of it who will put their foot down every now and then, right? And a situation where Carney only has a 1-seat, maybe 2-seat majority makes me wonder, do you see more Nate Erskine-Smiths putting their heads up a little bit and maybe stepping on some of the legislation that the government wants to put forward?
Well, to be fair, once Nate Erskine-Smith I mean, if he wins the nomination for the Ontario Liberals, but I'd be shocked if a different candidate won that nomination.
Mhm.
Then once he's the officially nominated candidate, I don't think he'll be a federal Liberal much longer. I think he's pretty much only staying just because it's such a thin margin right now.
Yeah,
But like he does, there's going to be more changes. Like that's
yeah.
just
Well,
one
and that's
example.
yeah, that's kind of my point. Is like he's just one person, but I'm sure there'll be more people like him, right? Like there's more people like Nate Smith in
But
the Nate Erskine
and
Smith in
that's
the
the thing.
party.
But like you're right, people can change their mind, and people
Mhm.
can also get sick. People can have like a family member die, or they could die themselves. Like
Yeah,
God forbid. But like people get old, and some of the
yep,
people in that house are really old. Like
yep,
not as an insult, but like just acknowledging the normal human lifespan.
yeah.
Like, and overall, it's like that's so precarious. And also, as I pointed out in the first half, like, and this is definitely true federally, like, because committee appointments have already been assigned through negotiation and then being voted on in a rules of procedure for the House, like, the Speaker can't break a tie to reassign them if the Liberals only have a majority with the Speaker, and then it's like if it's 171 and 171, and then the Speaker is the tiebreaker, he in this case, I don't think can't break the tie.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not 100% sure. We're kind of entering a little bit of
Yeah. It's
foreign territory here, right?
from my research into that's what appears to be correct. So
Hmm.
you would have a technical majority, but they can't change committees in order to have a majority there and control the committees, and
Hmm.
they can't use time allocation in on the floor of the House because that requires an actual majority vote in the House. And the
Yeah.
Speaker, their job is to extend debate and preserve the opportunity for debate. So speakers, if they're tie breaking, will always vote against time allocation.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, yeah,
it's precarious.
yeah,
I mean, on Matt Genery specifically, like he was clearly been considering it for several months and was bullied out of doing it by other Andrew Scheer and other conservatives intimidating him, according to this timeline of events. And then he just was like, you know what, I'll do it anyway. Uh, I don't know. Like it's in general, I'm not a fan of the fact that Carney is very much shifting rightward enough to be attracting all these conservatives. And
mhm,
the refrain people are telling me is, oh, but they're taking Dolly Begum in from the Ontario NDP to the federal Liberals. And I'm like, yeah, and Bob Rae was such a progressive that everyone in the NDP loves him to this very day. Like,
yeah,
and also to be fair, like she's also moving rightward in a
yeah,
sense. Like,
yeah,
I mean, not that uh, Carney's moved to the right of Trudeau. That's
yeah,
indisputable. So Dolly is moving to a target to the right of Trudeau's. I could understand an Ontario NDP going to like the Trudeau Liberals. That might
yep,
make more sense for me. But to the Carney Liberals, no. Like this
yeah,
is it shows that maybe we're not picking the right people to be NDP electeds, especially to be the deputy leader of the Ontario NDP. But it's just I as a socialist in Canada right now, I'm not optimistic about our current electoral prospects federally. Like, especially because Alexander Boulanderis is probably going to step down to run for Quebec Solidaire. They passed the gender exception. Normally, they would only let a woman or a non binary person run in this seat because they want maximum gender equality. However, they've made an exception for him specifically because he's so cool and awesome and with it and hip with the youth. Uh, it's like,
yeah. No, I really wanted to dig into that Dolly Begum situation a little bit because I just want to say, if you find yourself, if you're comfortable running for the Carney Liberals, what the fuck are you doing in the NDP to begin with?
no, yeah, like that's the thing. It's like I'm sorry, but I do remember when the NDP were supposed to be a socialist party and largely comprised of socialists, even if they understood some people are a little bit afraid of the word.
Mhm.
Like, even under the height of the Red Scare, they weren't taking socialist out of their name. They were under pain of death. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And this is part of the thing federally I kind of like about Avi Lewis. He's like, no, this is a good word. It's like it is. He's not saying that like Zoran Mamdani and Americans are like the height of where socialism can be. Of course not. But he's saying like, listen, if he can win there, we can do way better than we've been doing here.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
it's confidence. It's not arrogance. And
No.
like I want I like if you're just going to be a different flavor of liberal, that's probably why they're so willing to cross the floor to the liberals
Mhm.
and why so many people are willing to just vote for the liberals or stay home.
Yeah. Yeah. It's if you're not going to differentiate yourself from the Liberal Party, why the fuck is anyone going to vote for you? Why is anyone going to vote for you?
Yeah.
Why won't they just go vote for the Liberal Party?
And
Liberal Party is going to win. They're the ones that
conservatives
are
are
going to
going to
form
start
government,
facing
so they'll go vote for them.
a similar problem though, because people in these like 905 ridings, like who whatever conservatives run there, either current people or whoever they recruit to replace people who have betrayed them, like they're going to get asked at the door by voters, how do I know you're not just going to cross the floor to the liberals? How do I know you're
Yeah.
not lying to me? That's all you politicians do is lie. Like, and they won't be able to say anything because even if they are an honest like dyed blue in the wool Tory, like that these people pretended to be too.
Yeah.
Like, and maybe
Yeah.
they were until they were pushed to a breaking point, but it does create like a significant issue here in that on both the left and the right, people are going to be like dispirited and perhaps just stay at home rather than voting Tory or NDP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible. It's also possible that people just become more it's also possible people become more suspicious of their politicians, which wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, right?
I don't know.
Um,
I don't think that people are going to suddenly like shake the tribal identities they've
no,
adopted for
probably.
themselves. And like I'm not saying they're members of parties. Very few people are members of parties, but like
Mhm.
they like you'll go to like families like in areas and they'll be like, "Of course I'm a conservative. My wife's a conservative, our friends are conservatives, our parents and our cousins and uncle and
Yeah.
they're all conservative." Where like it's very much an identity passed through a family and your actual policy standpoints can vary wildly, but
Mhm.
you're very tribal about the partisan thing, not because of any specific policies, but because they're your team.
Yeah.
Like, do I care about the specific players the Toronto Blue Jays have? No, I want them to fucking win the World Series.
Yeah. Yeah.
The difference is that's sports and this is the governance of a country.
Yeah. Yeah. But also, I don't know. That's a great analogy. I always love tying sports to politics, right? Because people will recognize in sports that when you want your team to be better, you yell at people to improve it, right? Like you yell at the management, you yell at the coach, you yell at the players, you yell at the owners. Like you say this team sucks, and the only way it's going to get better is if some changes are made.
So
Same thing. Politics works the same way,
I
except
hate
we have lost that ability to challenge our leaders.
I hate the kind of political people who don't like sports to the extent where they're like, "Oh, sports ball, score the point, go team," and I'm like, "Fuck off!" Like, like for one, it's like they get lost in the weeds of the numbers themselves, and they
Mhm.
have no appreciation for the psychological elements of politics, their own field. If they did,
Yeah.
they would understand how much they have to learn from sports in terms of the psychological way that people
Mhm.
engage with their team and
Yeah.
feel about other teams
Yeah.
like the way I feel about politics is probably shaped by that as well. It's like people would
Mhm.
think like as a Toronto sports fan I hate Montreal teams and I'm like no, not at all. I think they're an essential partner. We would not have the sport as Toronto sports teams if we could not play Montreal. Like the
Yeah.
best part of Toronto hockey is watching them play Montreal and vice
Yeah.
versa. Like,
Yeah.
so it's like in the case of politics, that affects how I feel about certain parties that I feel should collaborate with each other because they target different demographics, but they have a lot of shared goals and they're playing the game together. But I also have some teams I fucking hate without any remorse, and like that in politics, there are people who I think are evil beyond measure and need to be let's not finish that sentence, but like anyway, I'm not fond of floor crossers. I think they kind of degrade democracy by ruining people's fate. Because listen, I'd love if people thought they were voting for the individual. I do vote for the individual to an
Yep.
extent. Like it's that's important to me that I'm not
Hmm.
voting for a shitty person just because they're in the right party. But the flip side is, unfortunately, most Canadians do vote based on
Hmm.
party. And when they cross the floors, it is a fundamental betrayal of what they were voting for. And we can fight about the technicality of it being a person instead of a party. But if this is how most people vote, I think we should shape our ballots to how people communicate their political interests.
Yeah, yeah, we can get into some electoral reform, looking at some MMP there and some lists
Uh,
like MMP
that
and
that's why I like local lists, where you still have a local
yeah, yeah.
candidate and they're ranked based on how they did proportionally. So a
Mhm.
candidate who got 60% of the vote in their riding is ranked on their party list above someone who got 50 or
Yeah,
40%. And then number of seats, you go down the list that number. That's
yeah.
my favorite way because you still have local candidates, but it recognizes, and people vote the same way, but it recognizes people vote based on party, but also recognizes you get what I mean. And that way,
Yeah,
you don't have
it's
to
it, you're
change the ballot at all.
you're almost basically describing open list MMP, which is like my favorite form. The only difference is like that one adds a section where you can pick your
I
MPs
know, and
and then
that's my thing. I'm like, if we can get a very proportional system and fair system where the ballot doesn't
mhm.
have to change at all, then the population will probably take it better. Like,
Well, and I think the one you're describing it, I would I, we'd have to get Sammy Baj on the
yeah,
podcast here because he'd be
I
able to
I
tell us.
should
He'd be able
have
to.
him on for the Grand Electoral Reform Bizarre. I'm not joking. I should reach
No,
out
no.
to Sammy. Like I
Um,
love Sammy. He's great.
yeah, no. He would absolutely be able to go through all of this far better than I would. But I believe it's like the exact one you're describing is like the it's like a specific German system that they use in a specific region of Germany, and it works very very well, and it would be a huge boon to this
Well,
country.
as a Jew, I've never been failed by German systems. Okay, folks, moving on to our next topic of the day. From Jaden Dill at CBC News and the Ottawa Bureau, the federal government says there may not be enough workstations for all workers to return for 4 days a week in office. A rule expanding required days in office is currently set to kick in July 6th, but as this piece from the CBC says, the Treasury Board and the Public Services and Procurement Canada, they're willing to negotiate on this a little. They're currently trying to figure this out because as PSAC, the Public Services Union, has been telling them for months and months, you physically do not have enough space in terms of desks in all of these offices you own and rent in order to fit all of us in office 4 days a week. And even in general, like, let's go beyond the fact that it's practically not possible at the current moment in time. Let's go to the bigger picture, Matt. They shouldn't have to. They have clearly been doing their jobs
Yeah.
more than fine from home. If they don't need to go in office to do the job, they shouldn't even have to do it 3 days a week like they are now. Like, I have had jobs where I've worked over a year remotely, and my vice president at those jobs, who loved my performance, would talk to me about how our performance metrics were higher during COVID when we were remote than
Mhm.
before when we were in person. And like, I think it's entirely an ego thing, and it's really making me pissed on behalf of the working class and workers in general. like how much they are losing benefits they got during COVID just because of like a petty managerial class who wants to have them in office to manage in person for their own ego, mindless of the fact that they may very well have been doing better at home. And
Yeah,
at home does not mean not working. It means working comfortably. Like, I work at home. I'm a freelance writer. Like, I write and record this at home. Like, I have my studio at home, and it's very, very convenient. Like, I put a lot of professional effort into my work. It doesn't mean I'm not working and I don't care about my work.
yeah. No, the thing is, it's like you said, PSAC has been talking about this for a long time, and if I remember correctly, this is one of the main things that they went on strike for, was for access to remote and hybrid work, and
And
it was
they
one
were
of the things that
promised by the Trudeau government that they would have a fair conversation about it.
yeah,
And then the Trudeau government immediately broke that promise and it's like, oops, we had a conversation, we conversed enough,
yeah,
and you're now out of your strike period. Too bad, so sad. Which is
yeah.
how they like
No,
weaponize laws about only being able to strike at a certain time and being an essential service
yeah.
against like, and I'm like, if you're an essential worker, surely they should be paid whatever they want because they're so essential to the functioning of society.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're so essential that society cannot function without you, then you need to pay that fucking person what they want. That is
Yeah.
the bargaining power that they have gained for themselves.
There's only like two kinds of people that should ever have to work in person, and those are EMTs and like fire fighters. Like,
Emergency services.
yeah, like, yeah. Well, no, I wasn't including cops
I know
because I don't
you were
like
leaving
them.
out.
Like, I was specifically they caused the emergency, Matt.
Yes.
Like, and not to be too anti-cop, but considering the recent reports from in Toronto that about 7 current officers and 1 retired one were working with organized crime to put out hits on prison guards and traffic official police uniforms to organized criminals so they could pretend to look like cops in the street. I'm not fond of the pork barrel right now.
But yeah, no, it is incredibly frustrating because this is what, like, PSAC knew that this was coming, and they told the government that this was coming,
And the
and the
government
government
didn't
ignored
listen
them.
because they were arrogant and they're
Yeah.
like, but I will say there is something I do want to talk about in regards specifically to how we treat public service workers in general, like across all levels of government in this country, like federal, provincial, and municipal. Uh, Sometimes the public likes to see them mistreated.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes there is a vindictive, spiteful nature about the mass public. And I know people listening to the podcast may not necessarily want to interrogate this about themselves and their friends and family. But, like, sometimes the public is like, yeah, fuck those public service workers. They shouldn't be paid more than me. They shouldn't have better benefits than me. And I'm like, well, they have those because they have a union that negotiated for it. Why don't you have a union to negotiate for yourself? And they're like, like they don't there's just a spiteful thing about, because in a way, like, the public understands it's their tax dollars that fund public servants, and
Mhm.
I think that encourages some of those petty managerial traits that are so toxic and negative in why they're pushing return to office in the private sector as well. Especially, but like, if you're being forced to do so in the private sector, then you in turn might feel the crab in a barrel instinct to say, well, why should they get to work from home?
Mhm.
Like, it
Well,
it,
and
it frustrates me.
I think this is something that we're seeing, like, not just in Canada but across a lot of the Western world. Like, this is a really common sentiment in the U.S. This is a really common sentiment in Britain.
The
A lot of the kind of
atomization of the working class,
the
like
in the kind
the
of
destruction of
Anglosphere.
solidarity.
Yeah, and there's this. And I honestly think it's a little bit too of the imperial boomerang coming home to roost a little bit, where we no longer have these people on the foreign scene, or at least the U.S. is trying to recapture this right now, right, where they're trying to do cruelty on the world stage to to satisfy at home. Um, we don't have the ability. We're not an empire. We don't have the ability to do that. We have done it in the past,
And the
but
United
now we've
States
lost.
is doing it by finally just cannibalizing allies who,
Yeah,
like us, foolishly thought we were part of the imperial core. And like
yeah,
Carney went to Davos to say, it was fine when it was happening to other countries, but now that it's happening to us,
yeah,
but you're right. It's like there is a global, at least Western trend like that is
yeah.
hurt, and it's very intentional among neoliberal modes, like to destroy like the solidarity of the working class that allows them to collectively organize, and you destroy that by fundamentally creating divisions between the members of the working class to divide them from themselves, to prevent them from forming their unified whole. Uh,
Yeah.
and like that the way in which that interacts between private sector workers and public sector workers is fascinating to me. Not necessarily like positive, but just like the dynamic is worth study in
Mhm.
my like I'd love to read a book or an academic paper on it because I've become a voracious reader of books, and like I've always read, folks, like don't get me
Mhm.
wrong, I'm a writer, I read, but like I've been trying to do like like committing to like properly reading like every single day, like in high volume, like like shorter books, like reading a full book a day, like longer books getting it done in like 2 or 3 days. But like I just want to always be reading, like. So like if you ever have any book recommendations for me or my guest, please put them in the replies on our site at jakelando.ca or in whatever social media feed you found me posting this episode in. But Matt, is there anything else about this story that really pops out to you?
The only other thing that I can really say is this government is trying to cut costs right now, right? We're trying to cut operating budgets. Seems like one of the ways to really effectively do that would be to allow people to work from home and work remotely and not have those office spaces open and not have to put the money into the energy and to the
Yeah, like
rentals and
office, not just
like
owning it,
it's
but
not cheap.
managing it is really fucking expensive.
Yeah,
Like, and if
a
people
lot of
are
overhead.
working viably from home, and then it's really that's part of why it's like cutting off your nose to spite your face. It's an
Yeah,
ego thing because people want them in the office, whether or not it makes sense for them to be in the
yeah,
office. It's about
yeah,
exerting power over workers to show that they can.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And like you say, it's cutting off your nose in spite of it.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, moving on to our final topic of the day, and this one is local to British Columbia because, as you folks know at home, we like to do our local story, and I like to make it match to where our guest is from. So, for the Vancouver municipal elections, from City News by Jan Schuerman, myopic and self serving is the quote. Vancouver Greens decline one city proposal for progressive primary ahead of mayoral race. The story here is that there are three sort of left-ish parties in British Columbia.
Mhm.
There is one city, which I believe are Social Democrats. Then there is COPE, which are Democratic Socialists.
Yeah,
And if you're wondering what's the difference, Social Democrats are cowardly and afraid, and Democratic Socialists admit what they are and act with the resulting confidence. And the Vancouver Greens are left leaning and green. Now,
yeah.
firstly, before we get into the weeds of anything, Matt, is there any like real relationship between the Vancouver Greens and BC Greens?
Um, I mean, they talk as far as I'm aware, but
They
there's no
they
official.
talk.
Yeah, but there's no official. They organize together. I'm sure they talk, but there's no official actual link. I'm pretty sure
Oh.
Pete Fry did offer an endorsement in the last race. Um, but yeah, there's no official connections. And I would also say too that when it comes to green parties in the country, the Vancouver Greens are probably the ones I'm least on board with.
Mm.
That's just due to some of their housing policies.
Okay. And in general, one city and Cope, how do they relate to the NDP in your opinion?
So one city is essentially the BC NDP farm team. You can think of it like that. If you're in one city, there's a and you do well in one city, there's a good chance that you'll find a home in the BC NDP at some point. And then Cope is, I would say, on the more critical side, especially in recent years, especially with the addition of Sean Orr. It's more of a real kind of socialist party rooted in socialism. And I would say that's kind of the main defining difference between the two.
You
Like you
used to
said,
be able to say that about the NDP,
what's that?
that they were a socialist party
No,
rooted in
I can't say
socialism.
that about the NDP.
No, but you used to, like
Oh yeah,
decades ago, before you and I were born. But
yeah,
like according to the history books, once upon a time. So I get
yeah. Well, and once upon a time, like Cope has been around for a very long time. One city is a lot newer than Cope is. Cope's been around for a very long time.
yeah.
They have
Apparently,
been.
the one city formed itself from the right of Cope in
Yes.
2014.
Yeah.
So okay, so yeah, so instead of becoming more right wing over time, Cope just let the right wing people leave.
Yeah. And
And
Cope
right
has
wing
done
is
this.
a relative term here, but
Yeah. Cope has done this multiple times as well. Like there's been multiple splits from Cope to form new parties and stuff like that. But I would say in recent years, Cope has really been reinvigorated by the kind of energy that Sean Orr has brought back into the party.
yeah,
And that's
I
why
like
they're
Sean.
really a
He's
part of the
nice.
conversation right now.
Yeah. And in this case, the story here is that one city apparently together a proposal for a progressive primary where they would join together the members of all three of these parties to pick one mayoral candidate who would run against Ken Sim, who's essentially under the ABC banner, the conservative candidate. Which is confusing if you're used to ABC meaning anyone but conservative.
Yeah,
Uh,
and then there's also the Vancouver Liberals too, who are going to run basically a Ken Sim like campaign, but they're not Ken Sim.
so they're gonna run the vote split Ken Sim campaign.
Yeah, essentially, it's being run by Kareem Alam, who was one of the major backers of Ken Sim in his first run.
Ooh, fun. Okay, so now I'm assuming here that council seats would remain for individual parties in this proposal.
So no, actually, the
No.
proposal they've been talking about has been talking about limiting council candidates as well.
Oh,
So
that would essentially just be on the verge of merger.
yeah, it would be so they're talking about, I think the most recent that I heard from, I think it was from Ian Bushfield. They were talking about doing a one mayor candidate and five councillors from each party that could be put up. And then the primary would basically divvy that up.
Hmm.
The issue with this, and like Pete Fry says, is that essentially it is an ultimatum. The way
And
that
also like it's in very bad faith because folks, before we go any further, what you need to know is that one city's proposal sets a membership cutoff
Mhm.
after one city has just done a massive membership drive, but the Greens and Cope have not yet run similar campaigns recently in the lead up. So as a result they're saying, hey, let's do a shared primary dominated primarily by our voters without
Yeah,
giving you people the chance to recruit your own voters.
yeah, one city has had their mayoral primary already and has had their membership drive already, whereas Cope and the Greens haven't.
Right.
And
So they're
this
different.
idea was a oh, go ahead, sorry.
So they're at just different levels of engagement
Yeah,
with the
and
pro,
and
and it wouldn't be fair, like, to have a cutoff that's already passed.
no, and this was an idea that was actually floated by Sean Orr and Pete Fry originally. This isn't an Azarov banger out of the gate or something like that. Like this was something that was floated by Cope and the Greens already. One city picked it up and then decided that they wanted an answer by this Friday.
Yeah, it's like it's not. Yeah, it's just it's the idea that they get to dictate terms to people,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
and that very much betrays the linkage with the NDP to an extent, the entitlement,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, no, absolutely.
the BC NDP. I mean, I don't think the federal NDP feel entitled to much right now, other than continuing to have seats at all.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. It's a level of entitlement. And Azarov as a candidate himself has basically taken this on. Like, he is making this his thing. Don't think Vancouver voters are going to respond to this positively, particularly those voters who are keeping like multiple options on the left as an
Oh
option.
yeah,
People
well
who would
it
move
makes you
between
look
one
in
city
bad
and home.
faith. If they took it seriously and they made a serious proposal, I think it actually might have been a pretty good idea. Mind
I
you,
actually think it's a
yeah,
fantastic
mind
proposal
you,
if it's
I
done right.
generally do not like the idea of first past the post causing these problems, and I
Mhm.
would make my party's participation contingent on pursuing some sort of electoral reform, but I
Yeah,
don't know the options that municipalities are given for that under BC law.
STV. You could do it.
You could, if you could, then then I think that it should be something that all of these parties need to agree, and they need to agree on a specific system.
Yeah,
They not
yeah.
the thing where you punt it to a referendum, and then say there's no clear consensus when the
Yep.
result doesn't go your way.
No, you do it. You pull the band-aid. You do the switch. You run 2 or 3 election cycles, and then you hold your referendum. Then
Yep.
you say to people, now that you've had a chance to experience the new system, do you like the new system or do you want to go back to the old one?
Yep. Give
That's how you
people
do it.
Let people actually know what they're picking.
Yeah, so they can see, so they can actually participate within the system and understand it.
Now, I guess in general, if there's not going to be a progressive primary and everyone's going to be running their own people, who do you particularly fancy in this matchup? Because I'm sure you don't like Ken Sim.
Yeah, no, I don't like Ken Sim. I mean, there's no one that's really announced for mayor yet. For me, that's really piqued my interest. Like, I mean, Pete Fry would probably be the default choice for me, just out of the gate. I really don't like what Azarov is doing here with this progressive primary stuff, and I also just kind of preferred the other one city mayoral candidate. I would have been a lot more open to looking at one city as a serious option had she been the candidate. Um, I want to see if Cope is going to put anyone forward, and if they do, who they put
Is it
forward.
an option that they wouldn't?
It's possible they won't put a mayoral candidate forward. Yeah. It's Cope has struggled in the mayoral race a little bit recently in recent years. They've struggled as a party in recent years. Like I said, they're just kind of coming into the resurgence. So it wouldn't shock me if they let the Greens in one city battle it out in this mayor election and just tried to get a couple more councilors on the council
And I get
instead.
that because it's a weak mayor system. So,
Yeah,
the more votes on council, the better. You don't
yeah.
want to throw too much money into what's ultimately a single vote. But do you worry that, not having a Cope candidate in, mayoral debates could hurt them down ballot?
Um, I
Like,
mean,
they,
it's possible,
yeah.
but the whole Cope machine is built around organizing and is built around being in public and is built around being on social media. So I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of people who make a decision based on a Vancouver mayoral's candidate debate, anyways. Um, I think you're better off knocking doors and being out in the opening and organizing that way, particularly for a party like Cope.
Alrighty. Well, any last thoughts on Vancouver politics before we go?
It's a shit show.
Yeah,
It, it
about
it
the
honestly
usual for
feels like,
municipal politics.
yeah, it's similar to those Toronto politics, right? Where you just kind of bang your head against the wall. And
Well, you have the benefit of, in addition to an elected school board, you have an elected park board.
yes, that is one of the really nice things that Vancouver has, and that's one of the things that Ken Sim wants to get rid of.
Well, if Ken Sim doesn't like it, it must be good. All right.
Usually a pretty good rule of thumb.
Alrighty. Well, Matt, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show again today. We will hopefully have you on again soon in a few months, closer to the Vancouver municipal elections, so we can actually get some comment once things are closer to the field. But again, this has been Matt Kercher, political commentator, left-wing green activist. And Matt, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Matt Kercher, everybody. And that'll do it for this week's episode, folks. Thanks once again to Matt Kercher for joining the program, and we will be back with you next week with another guest, and we will see you then. Have a great night, folks. This is the end of the show. Bye.